Our last speaker, I think, has got something very important to say to us, a message for us, really, when you consider that in the two halves of our industry, if you like, within the business services, where 70% or 7 out of 10 of the people working in the service centres are women, maybe 7 out of 10 in the senior management, not yet women. And in IT, kind of 8 out of 10 people are men, right? So we've still, or clearly got some gender issues or some diversity issues. So Sharon Vosmek is CEO of Astia, which is a community of investors, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders that's grown from 20 individuals in Silicon Valley to more than 5,000 now around the globe. Supported by Google for Entrepreneurs, which we have here in Krakow. So Astia's mission is to propel women's full participation as entrepreneurs and leaders in business, to drive economic growth. And clearly that's something that if we can get that going here in Krakow, that would be a great thing, and there are some initiatives to make that happen. I'm very, very pleased that Sharon is here and can close for us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I've been asked to get through this as quickly as possible because I understand there's beer and vodka out there. So stay with me for just a moment, and I promise I won't go over my time. There's a big clock right here. If I do, my husband's promised to pull me off the stage, so we're good. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about, by the way, I learned this in speech class back in high school, that I should tell you what I'm going to talk about, then I'm going to tell you what it is, and that way you'll know when you're done and you can leave. So, number one, I'm going to talk about innovation, why it matters. You all are in innovation industries, but we're going to come to an agreement about what we're talking about tonight. Number two, we're going to talk about how you can create a culture of innovation. And you, meaning you as individuals within your industry, you as individuals within Krakow, you as individuals within Poland, you within this globe. And then finally, we're going to talk about why Poland in particular is ripe for a new model of innovation, which I'll call inclusive innovation. More on that to come. Now, we heard about leadership earlier, and thank you very much for those thoughts, because those are truly notions that I embrace as a leader, and I hope to aspire to perfecting them every day. And what I'm aware of is that we who embrace that challenge to be leaders, we're leading in a time of unprecedented complexity, scale, and connectivity. I can tweet something today, and within 2 seconds, people around the world can refute it, debate it, embrace it, or otherwise retreat it. This is new. This is truly transformational for us as leaders, and something we need to be aware of. What this means is that we need to choose the type of leader we're going to be, because almost immediately people are going to know us when we step forward and put ourselves forward as a leader. I have chosen the path of the heretic. And since I don't know how well heretic translates into Polish, I'm going to translate it for you by what I intend. I am one who dissents from accepted belief or doctrine. And this is an imperative in my world. I come out of entrepreneurship, venture capital, and innovation in ecosystem that purports one thing, and when we peel back the layers and actually look at the truth, it's not often the same. So I'm someone who challenges the accepted norms, beliefs, and practices, and looks at what's really happening. And that's the type of leader I've chosen to be. So I like to start with why you can ignore me. This is at my core because I'm an American and from Silicon Valley, and I'm invited to come and speak and share with people as an American from Silicon Valley. And I like to tell you, that's not the end-all, be-all. So you can ignore me because I'm not from Poland. So what the hell do I know about Poland? One reason. Number two, you can ignore me because I have my master's in public policy, which means I'm good at talking, maybe not so good at doing. I don't know. Number 3, you already have Madame Curie, who was born here, and what I have to talk about is relevant to that, so we'll come back to that, but you may already have this solved. I have a few other reasons. I'm not a Jesuit minister. I haven't taught at London School of Economics. I actually have never climbed a mountain, would never climb a mountain. I'm not an Olympic champion. Let's see, what else am I not? I'm not a serial entrepreneur that's taken a company public. But what I am, and why we can discuss this, is that I am the only woman on the stage, so damn it, you're going to listen to me. Okay. So okay, so let's talk about innovation, because that's what we're here to talk about and why it matters. What's really exciting, it's one word, we can all learn it very easily, it's jobs. What we know in the US, and actually is true across Europe, but I have a really good source from the US, so we'll embrace it, all new jobs created in the last 30 years were created by startup companies less than 5 years old and driving innovation, either a technical or business innovation. This is important for us to know. Innovation matters. It matters in job creation, wealth creation, and new solutions to market. So we all agree, innovation matters. But then the question is, how do you create a culture that supports, creates, and sustains innovation? This is important for us as leaders. We have to ask this question always. What are we doing to contribute to innovation in our societies, in our networks, in our businesses? I had the good fortune, because I've raised my hand and said I'm willing to be a leader, to be invited to an exceptional program at IBM Centennial, and it was called Think. And it was for 150 global leaders to come together and hear from brilliant speakers, just as we've heard from tonight. And I must say, I am truly humbled to be coming after such thoughtful and articulate leaders. But at Think, I had the good fortune of hearing from one exceptional leader named Professor Tom Malone. And he's a professor at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which I hear has some very smart people. And in his talk, I got very interested because I'm a heretic, so I like to hear data and research, and he had lots of it. And what Professor Malone had set out to answer was, could group intelligence first be measured and then be replicated? And the reason he was asking the question was that MIT cares very much about innovation. And what they wanted to be able to do was show what kinds of teams create the best innovation, and then actually set out to replicate those types of teams by dissecting them and understanding them, and then going out and helping teams prosper. What's really exciting about his research is that it fed my heretic. It was assumed when they set out to do this research that group intelligence was closely linked to individual intelligence. We've been measuring IQ in individuals for nearly 60 years. And what we know is that that measure is a very good indicator of individual intelligence, and often a very good indicator of individual performance. So when MIT first started looking at groups, their assumption was, of course, group intelligence will equal the intelligence of all of the individuals on that team. And because I slipped my slides too quickly, you already know the punchline, but group intelligence actually is in no way correlated nor caused by individual intelligence. Now, in the social sciences, it's really difficult to come to conclusive and definitive results. What's really exciting is they did this in the math via an algorithm. So we're not in the soft sciences. This is stuff that's replicable over and again. And Scott Page at the University of Michigan has proven it as well. So then my ears really perked up. What is this secret sauce that helps teams perform better because they're more intelligent, and that leads to more innovation? Because I planned to take copious notes and then implement every single bit of it into my team, to my organization, and into anyone I could reach. So I should be taking a vote, to see what people think. But instead, I'm going to tell you that there were 3 corollaries to group intelligence. And these 3 corollaries came up time and again. They sliced and diced the research. They've replicated it several times. And like I said, it's been replicated at other institutions. So everyone have their pen and paper out. I know it's late, but this is good stuff. Number 1, the average social perceptiveness of the group. What does this mean? Well, I think we had prior speakers talking about their emotional intelligence. How well were the individuals in the group able to understand what the others were saying? And I don't mean understand just by words, but also body language. Were they angry? Were they bored? Were they empathizing? Were they understanding? How well could they understand the full context of what was being said to each other? The more of them in the group that had this social perceptiveness, the higher the IQ, the group IQ. Good to know. Number 2 was the evenness of conversation. Now, this was exciting in my own home because I happen to be married to a very intelligent man, and I happen to think I'm pretty smart myself. So in our home, we like to get into good discussions. I learned we were kind of doing it wrong because the evenness of conversation actually led to higher group intelligence. Not how well did one or the other argue their point, and how passionate were they, and how driven and believable were they. Quite the opposite. How even were the members of the group in their dialogue? And did all members of the group participate? Or did some sit quietly and others dominate? Those groups who had strong interpersonal interactions, both verbally and non-verbally, had the higher IQ. I am now sitting in my seat, at the edge of my seat, knowing that one more factor led to higher group intelligence. And I gotta share that when this third one came up, I was in an audience of about 1,200 individuals, 150, as I said, of us not from IBM. The rest were IBMers. And in the moment that they switched to number 3, I leapt out of my seat, me and about 10% of the other attendees. Come on, ladies, where are you? This is an interesting one. Professor Malone, I should tell you, has a group of about 20 working on this research, and he has 1 woman. But that's beside the point. Okay, that's beside the point. The interesting learning here. This is a really interesting thing. Let me tell you about my industry. I'm out of venture capital. 5% of us are women. Wow. And yet, we're funding innovation. Then the businesses we fund, about 7% of them raise venture capital if they have a woman on the founding team. Only 7% of venture capital goes to women founders. And yet, this great research shows that if we're looking for smarter teams that can drive innovation, that can bring to market the solution to today's very complex problems, to today's very connected problems, we need women on the team. It seemed so simple. So simple, it was almost too easy. And too easy is something we don't do well. So I wanted to translate how easy this is in this market. I promised to talk about why Poland is ripe for inclusive innovation. You've already heard that in my industry, where I sit in Silicon Valley, women are about 5% of the executives in innovation. Within corporations, we're at executive leadership, about the same number, somewhere just below 10%. But Poland has some cool stuff going on. Did you know that half of your at the ready, meaning population that has been educated and ready to work, is women. Has been, actually, for 30 years or more. I find this one more interesting. I don't know, did you know that? Wow. Okay, my background, I'm an economist in my background. I gotta tell you, nothing looks like that. And then translates to the numbers that we start to see. We've got some untapped opportunity. I'm gonna switch that back and forth so you can see it. University graduates, 65%. This isn't your applicants, these are women who have already been ready. They don't need mentoring, they don't need support, they don't need coaching. That, to me, reads they need opportunity. Interesting, because I also hear that this ecosystem, much like my own, is seeking the next innovation and seeking the path forward. I was asked to speak about the path forward. I see some path forward. So I have a challenge for you. I have a few challenges. This is the first one. This is women in the STEM in Poland. So while we're at the ready educationally broadly, we are lagging a little bit in the traditional innovation educational areas of STEM, science, technology, math. I like to add art in there because I think it's critical as well. There's some work and some opportunity. I also know that what we've perfected at Astia is a really interesting innovation on the model of inclusivity. What we've achieved, that 5,000 people around the globe, it's half men and half women. People don't ever believe that. They hear that I run Astia, they hear that I invest in companies that have a woman on the founding team. We just closed one yesterday. It's a battery company called Fin6, really, really cool, tough, hard technology. The CEO's a woman, team out of MIT, brilliant. They always assume I'm a women's network. And my reaction is why? I'm not stupid. I know men aren't stupid. I've just shown you the opportunity. Men are looking for solutions to this as much as women, so why wouldn't we engage men in this opportunity? And that's what we've done at Astia. And we've orchestrated it very deliberately because what we know about the numbers is that this stuff is about access. It's about access to opportunity and access to networks. And around the globe, that means here in Poland, men and women are still in separate business networks. And that leads to these numbers. It's actually nothing more complex than that. Most glass ceilings are going away. We don't have the time for them if we're entrepreneurs. If we're investors, we don't care about them. We want the best ideas. If we're in corporations, we want the best people. This isn't about wanting people out or wanting people in. This is actually about the fact that in our societies, we've built these snug little networks that are quite comfortable. And at the very beginning of my talk, you'll remember I said this is about getting comfortable with uncomfortable. Well, here's the uncomfortable. Men in the room, when's the last time you went for a beer with a woman? Raise your hand if it was within 2 weeks ago. Okay, now keep your hand up if that woman is not someone you're dating. Bless you. I saw one hand stay up, two hands stay up. Women in the room, when's the last time you went for a beer with a man? 2 weeks or less. Keep your hand up if you're not dating him. Keep it up. Oh, there are a few more women. Well done, women. So you've got the work. You understand what it is. You know, what no one wants to say is this uncomfortable. This uncomfortable is about sex. In our societies, it's uncomfortable because we have spouses at home and they're going to ask why we're having a beer with whomever it is. I'm an investor. I can't tell you how many times I've met with entrepreneurs over a beer. My choice is martini, usually vodka. Hopefully that makes you like me more. But my point is that when I go out with a male entrepreneur, and it's just the two of us, it gets a little uncomfortable. Not because I'm attracted to him, nor that he's attracted to me, but there are a whole society around us asking, Why, who, what? What's wrong with Tim? Why isn't he there? What does he think? Does he know? Should I tell him? What's interesting, too, is that those tables, those small tables, those are the trusted business networks that lead to opportunity. Boardrooms don't happen in training sessions. Women and men don't get put on boards because they've gone through board training. They get put on boards because they were having a martini on a Saturday with a guy that needed another board member, and dang it, you look good. I'll take you. You're on my team. You've got my back. I've got your back. We can do this. That's also how investment happens. Do I trust you? Do I know you well enough to give you this money and know that I'm going to see a return, or if I lose it, I'm going to be okay with that? Some investors, you heard it earlier, call it a marriage when they invest in a company. They're not kidding. It's really deep, intimate stuff. Trust. That's also how promotions happen. Promotions don't happen through women's leadership sessions where we take women away into one silo and tell them this is how to be a leader at this company. Promotions happen when someone has been championing you in that room, that small room that you're often not in. And they're talking about you, and the person is saying how great your performance has been, how you deserve the opportunity, and this company's going to thrive with your growth and your leadership. That stuff doesn't happen in programs. That happens in trusted business networks. What's really exciting to me about Poland is you've got this great opportunity at the ready. As you're building your innovation ecosystem, and if that's within your corporation, if that's within your university, if that's within your startup, if that's within your ecosystem more broadly, if you set out to do it better than we have in Silicon Valley, you can. We dream to have these kind of numbers. We'd still get it wrong, but we dream to have them. You have them at the ready. You can do it better. You can be ready for what's ahead of us in a way that will differentiate you from all other economies around the globe. This is front page news in every business section of every paper every day. How do we get women to participate more fully in our economy? And the question shouldn't be for women. And it's not ours to answer, but it is ours to answer. My challenge to you: do what you're doing so well already and do it better. Good night. Thank you very much for your time.